Hi, and welcome to my podcast. I'm Daniel Lee. Today we're going for a little walk through nature and talking about one question that I think is quite difficult for us to wrap our heads around, and that is, how can we love somebody as Donald Trump? How can you love such a person? Might seem almost impossible at first, but the thing is, we have free will. We can choose love. The key to understanding someone else is to see how you could be in exactly the same situation. And that might seem like a terrifying thing to us right now, because we're like, how the fuck can we be in the same situation and we do everything differently and all that stuff? Yes, but you're not afraid of the same things that Donald Trump is afraid of. You have not experienced the same things that he has experienced. So let's look at why it might be understandable, why it might be easy to love someone like Trump. So first of all, Trump is just another person like everybody else, right? The only thing is that he just happens to be in a powerful position, which just, but just like anybody else. How could someone do the things that he has done? How could someone cause so much pain to so many people so unnecessarily? The thing is, obviously from his point of view, it's not unnecessary. And second of all, what's the second thing? The second thing is, he believes that he's powerless, that he has to do the terrible things that he does. What? No way he has to do it. I know for us it seems like he could just flip a switch and do something else. But for him, the emotional state that he's in, he feels like he doesn't have a choice. He has to hurt millions of people. Otherwise he is fucked. And that is to do with fear and fear in general. So let's cover that for a second. We have free will, we can choose love. Right, it's easy and it's simple. But at the same time, what that means is that there's a lot of people who don't believe that they have free will and that they can choose love. A lot of people who believe that they have to be afraid of things. And if you have to be afraid of things, then naturally, your belief is that you have to destroy them. Because the pain of fear will only go away once that thing that you're afraid of has been destroyed. If it is true that you have to be afraid of it, they don't have a choice. Now that is what many of us believe, many of us with all of our little fears, the fear of disapproval, the fear of being abandoned, all of those things. When we are afraid of those things, we normally believe that we don't have a choice, that we have to be afraid of them. And that is just completely wrong. Completely wrong. It's totally fine, but it's completely wrong. You don't have to be afraid. You have free will, you can choose love. And the thing that makes Trump's decision is so much easier to understand, is to understand that he does not feel like he has a choice. He doesn't think that it's anything up to him, that he's got free will at all. He believes that he has to be afraid of all of these people taking away his power or taking away his status. Doesn't feel like he has a choice in the matter. And you'd be like, well, it's easy to just believe that you do have a choice. It's actually not. And that takes us to the second big point of the situation, which is this idea that when we're just used to believing that we don't have a choice, it's incredibly difficult, or it takes a lot of intention to start turning that around and start looking at, well, why do I have a choice? What are the possible ways that hypothetically I could have a choice in this matter, and whether or not I'm afraid, for example. So people who believe that they have to be afraid of things, they do not question that they have to be afraid of it. They're like, full stop, I have to be afraid of immigrants, I have to be afraid of all of these people, I have to. And then they'll justify it with something, but whatever that is, it's irrelevant, because it's not even true that they have to. They don't. And so when we are like, okay, I heard this concept that hypothetically it's possible for me to love. When we hear that and we're like, okay, well, we would like to turn things around a bit and we would like to learn to love a bit more. Then the next step is to start questioning the idea that we have no choice but to be afraid, and to start looking at the concept that, okay, if hypothetically I was able to love, why would that be? If it was hypothetically the case that I do not have to be afraid of being abandoned or disapproval, why would it be the case that I don't have to be afraid of it? And they're like, okay, well, maybe there's a slight sliver of hope that there is a bit of a choice there, that I do have a little bit of free will there. Then you work your way towards contemplating the idea that you have free will. You can choose love. So when Donald Trump says, I don't have a choice, I have to be afraid of these things, and that's why we're doing all of those things, it just makes, that's why we're doing all of those things to remove those people or to destroy this group of people. It makes complete sense. It makes complete sense if you think about the idea or the concept of them believing that they have to be afraid of those people. For wondering, I think there's a way up there. I'm going to go this way. So, I need to find a path up there. All right, let's go. So, I lost my trail of thought. Where was I? Yes. So let's say, for example, let's say he's afraid. Let's say Trump is afraid of immigrants, right? So he thinks that he has to be afraid of immigrants. Then for him, believing that is the case, for him the only way to get rid of the pain is to get rid of immigrants. And that's completely flawed, and it will never work, and you cannot get rid of immigrants. It's not a thing that you can actually do. Like, you can try to, but it's not a thing that you can actually do. And it's just, the logic is completely flawed as well. But it doesn't matter, because the logic is flawed from the beginning. From the beginning, the whole assumption is completely wrong from the start, which is the assumption that he has to be afraid of immigrants. That's not the case. But if he did have to be afraid of immigrants, considering that he believes that then the only way for him to get rid of the pain that is caused by his fear is to get rid of immigrants. And so all he's really trying to do is to lessen his pain, the pain that he is in. Just like each and every one of us tries to do every day. I've got a beautiful grass field to show you here. So how can we solve for that? How can we change it? How can we change it? The only way to change it is for him to acknowledge. Actually, let's look at it for the first time. Actually, if we want to change that, then our aim should be to ensure that Trump is in no pain anymore. Because all he's trying to do is to prevent his pain. Just like each and every one of us is just trying to do. And if what we're trying to do is to take away his pain, that is an act of love. That is an act of love. So now we're already talking about loving Donald Trump. So how do we do that? How do we go about it? What would be the process of going about it? Well, if all of this unnecessary pain hinges upon the false belief that he has to be afraid, that it's even possible to have to be afraid of something, that you don't have free will, then the solution is to try and introduce him to the concept that he can choose love. The concept that he does not have to be afraid, in this case of immigrants, that he can choose to love them. And how do you do that? Because I think this is a really, really, really important point, is that when we're talking about choosing love, free will, the idea is not to harass people and try to force them into choosing love and blaming them for being idiots for believing something that isn't true. It's completely beside the point. The point is, if you're actually trying to get someone to believe in their free will, is to start slowly and start with baby steps. So you take something that they're maybe only a little bit afraid of. Let's say Donald Trump is a little bit afraid of chocolate ice cream. Then we start by introducing the idea, well, actually, like, chocolate ice cream has lots of benefits. Chocolate ice cream makes the economy run. Lots of people love chocolate ice cream. Lots of people love you. And then you introduce him to the idea that, okay, well, maybe you can love chocolate ice cream. And then we take baby steps to the next and to the next and to the next thing, until it starts to believe in this idea of, okay, maybe I can love things that I thought I have to be afraid of. Maybe I can love them. And that's a huge start. And even if we just start with these little baby steps, then a person like Donald Trump will already begin to feel a little bit less intensely afraid of the big things, something like immigrants for Donald Trump. Now, to start with the concept as a whole is something for pros, because there's no fucking way that someone who's, for example, extremely terrified of rain, or okay, this is a silly example. Let's say someone who's extremely terrified of being abandoned. There's no way somebody who's really terrified of being abandoned will listen to me if I tell them that in general and objectively, they have free will and they can love anything. They'll be so convinced that they cannot love being abandoned that they'll just reject the idea as a whole completely immediately and not even try to apply it to lesser things. So that's why someone who's really far away from beginning to realize that they have free will, we start with baby steps and we just say, well, maybe you can't love everything, right? But maybe you can love chocolate ice cream. Or maybe you can love pizza. Maybe you can love tomato sauce. Maybe you can love the building site in front of your house because they're making your road all beautiful and fresh and clean and new. And then when guests come in 2 years and they see the beautiful road, they'll be amazed by how beautiful your road is. So take baby steps. Introduce them to little things. And then, by the time you work your way up to the big fear, like, for example, in one person, it might be the big fear of being abandoned. In another person might be the big fear of disapproval. Then by the time you get up to those stages, then they might be willing to accept that maybe they can even love that. And if they can love that, well, then indeed they can love everything. Anything. So that is how to love Donald Trump. You realize that actually he's basically doing exactly the same thing as me and you, just trying to prevent his own pain. There's just a couple of misunderstandings along the way that might differentiate us from his current situation. But we have all experienced what it's like to be in a situation where we believe that we have to be afraid and we don't have a choice. And when we're in that situation, well, there's nothing we can do in our small frame of mind, in our small perspective in that moment. There's nothing we can do apart from try and eradicate, try and destroy what we are afraid of. And that's a big shame, because that is completely counterproductive. Because let me tell you something. This universe, this existence, is all about learning to love. So when we are incredibly afraid of something, which we do not have to be afraid of, then the universe is kind of going to be like, so you're afraid of being abandoned. I am going to show you abandonment again and again and again and again and again, until you realize that you have free will and that you can love it. And the universe sees that as a present, as a gift to you. Like, the universe is basically expecting you to be like, oh, thank you, universe, for giving me all the things I'm afraid of so that I can learn to love. That's what the universe is expecting from you. The universe feels absolutely fantastic about sending you again and again and again all the things that you're afraid of. Because what the universe knows, which you don't, or which you might not know, is that you actually have free will and you actually can love everything. And the state of mind of knowing that you can love everything, that you have free will and that you can love everything, is beyond anything else you've ever experienced. That state of mind is worth all the work that there could possibly be in this universe. So it's difficult to understand people like Donald Trump. But we can take little steps to recognize us within them, to see that we are more or less doing exactly the same thing that they're doing. If you're talking about the spiritual, emotional, fundamental decision making that's going on there. And if we can see that, then we can see them in a whole different light. We can also see what actual effective steps one could take to reduce the amount of pain another person can be in. And if there's one goal that Americans should maybe have right now, it maybe should be to reduce the amount of pain the president is in right now. That would be a good thing, not just for America, but for the whole world. For everyone involved. So thanks for listening to this podcast. Thanks for watching, if you're watching on YouTube or elsewhere. I love doing podcasts. I'm going to do more podcasts like this where I just talk about understanding people in different situations, learning to love them, and also learning to love things that we consider to be impossible to love. Because you can indeed love everything. It's difficult, it seems almost impossible, but it's possible. Trust me. Have a lovely day, and I'll talk to you soon.